I don't know what Chaim Bloom is doing, but what we do know, Hunter Renfroe is on his way to Milwaukee in exchange for Jackie Bradley Jr. and 2 prospects. Before I get into the Chaim Bloom stuff with you, Colby, Aram, tell us a little bit about these prospects that the Red Sox are getting.
Yeah, I think the guy that they really wanted here was Benelis. And Benelis is what I was telling Colby, like what I said in the chat last night, is the Red Sox basically got another Blaze Jordan, right? Like a super high upside bat with a wide range of outcomes. He's got crazy power, like plus raw power, but we don't know if he can hit upper level pitching yet. He ate low A pitching, but that's what you would expect a college guy to do. I'm not saying that it's bad. It's good that he did that, so it's encouraging. But there's still a lot to be sorted out. But I mean, a big power bat from the left side. And, they are able to get somebody here that has 30 home run upside that could be really, really interesting if they can develop them right. That's a nice little piece for someone if you were really planning on swapping out Hunter Renfroe anyways. And then they also get a really athletic prospect that is one of the fastest guys in the minors and also, is probably going to be that super utility type. I find it interesting because the Red Sox had interest in John Birdie last year. And that was somebody that they were looking at for some infield depth. And I feel like the other prospect that they get in this deal ends up being kind of like that John Birdie type, where he's a plus runner, can play all over, super utility type. And that's exactly David Hamilton. That's exactly what I think he can be for them. So Hamilton's the high floor. Benelis is the high ceiling, low floor. And that's a good balanced return, I think, for what was a situation where you're not really expecting to get a needle moving package or anything like that.
And now let's talk about the major league players, Kevin, because what I hate, and we were talking pre-recording, is that Jackie Bradley Jr. in center field, in Fenway, against the New York Yankees, is the greatest defender in MLB history. Something turns on in his head, so I'm not very happy to see him back in center field. But Hunter Renfroe is a pretty good player. I was surprised that the Red Sox did that. So, Colby, why did he do that?
It's an interesting deal. I was trying to think through it. One, I'll leave this off and we'll come back to it later. I think this move is purely going to lead to another move down the line. Either whether it's getting trade capital to go and get a trade for another premier outfielder, or whether it's to get an outfielder in free agency. One guy I want to talk about later is Michael Conforto. But secondly, I think that the one thing with Hunter Renfroe, the big drawback for him is that he's the streakiest hitter alive. He's the streakiest hitter alive. Let me bring you through month by month in the 2021 season for Hunter Renfroe. Like, this is crazy. In March, he had a 29 WRC plus. Then in May and June, 147, 136 WRC plus. He got hot. Then in July, 71 WRC plus, cooled off. August, he gets on a roar again, 169 WRC plus. Moving into September, he finishes the year with a 110 WRC plus. Then absolutely slumps for the playoffs, which I was going to say,
do the ALCS.
Yep. 66 WRC plus in the playoffs. So I think that left a really, really bad taste in a lot of fans. And I think even in the front office's mind. The other problem with Hunter Renfroe is we all have seen the videos of him just absolutely doing the Giannis Cespedes just bomb throw from the outfield to get guys to the plate, which is it's the sickest play in the league. Like, I'm not going to lie. That's the sickest play ever. But defensively, route running and, actually catching fly balls, the job out there, he's pretty poor. He rated as an even defender by defensive runs saved. He had 0 defensive runs saved. By outs above average, he had -2. So he's an average defender out there, which, I think that the Red Sox kind of need that defense out there. So that's a reason why they go and get a guy like Jackie Bradley Jr., who, by the way, cannot hit. He had a 35 WRC plus in 2021.
He's a pitcher.
He hit 160. But he's still arguably one of the best center fielders in the game. 12 defensive runs saved. Like, the dude's just a beast out there in center field or wherever you put him, right? The weird thing with Jackie Bradley Jr. at the plate last year is that he could not hit fastballs, which is weird because Jackie Bradley's whole career has been based off of hitting fastballs. Like, he gets absolutely diced up by sliders and curveballs and everything junk. Always has. But fastballs have been his saving grace. Last year, though, against fastballs, he only hit 248 WOBA, which is 15th worst against fastballs in all of baseball. And it's not even that he's whiffing on those fastballs, which he is, but kind of at like an even rate, like kind of standard rate. The problem is he's hitting 47% of those fastballs into the ground, which is fifth highest in the league. So he's just hitting everything on the ground, which is a struggle. I'm hoping that, maybe a return to the Red Sox where he's from, where he was drafted, came up with, can kind of be a resurgence for him. And another guy I'd like to bring back is Kyle Schwarber to maybe help JBJ. Did it for Dahlbeck. Maybe he can help.
And that's the thing with this Red Sox roster, because, I mean, you know this better than most, Colby. They were one of the worst defensive teams in baseball last year, but they can hit. I mean, you still got Bogarts, you still got Devers, you still got JD Martin. Like, you still have so much offense that sometimes that can offset the JBJ defense and center. And we know how important outfield defense is to teams these days. I mean, if you can save that extra base hit, that could mean a win or a loss in any one of these games. So I actually do kind of like the deal. And when you're mentioning the fastball, that almost seems to me like he might bounce back, because that seems
I could see it.
Weird. And it may have just been a down offensive year because he's not that bad of a hitter.
Yeah. So looking at 2017 to 2019, he produced a 90 WRC plus all three of those years, like so consistently below average, but like perfectly below average that it produced value, play. He had 2 to 2.5 WAR in all those years. And like, if that's what you're getting, that's perfect. I think the interesting thing that it opens up for the Red Sox.
You know what Renfroe's WAR was last year?
3 something. I would say
probably they're not losing much in that department.
It's
if
not
he goes back to old JBJ.
Bad. But I think that the interesting thing is it opens up some versatility for the Red Sox. They'll move Kike over to second more now from center field, which, gets some really good defense over at second base now. And then you can still keep Kike in center field when you put Jackie Bradley on the bench. There's so many different lineups that the Red Sox can roll at you now. And especially like late innings, we can bring in Jackie Bradley as a defensive replacement. I know it's a lot of money. Put the money aside in this whole conversation. Yeah. Like, just imagine it we just got one of the best defenders in the league. And, it's exciting. I don't think the Red Sox are done here.
Agreed.
Yeah. So a couple things. Yeah. Money aside, I like the move, right? Like you take the worst, arguably defensive team in baseball, and you now bring into the fold one of the best defenders we've seen in decades in the outfield. I mean, that alone is a good move. It's a net positive. But when you're trying to make sense of it from a financial standpoint, you just have to hope that it just means the Red Sox are cruising over the luxury tax, because he's expensive and Chaim Bloom is footing the whole bill, which was a big surprise to me. On the flip side, I love the move for the Brewers. I think the Brewers must be thrilled. Not only do you get out from Jackie Bradley's contract, you get some much needed offensive help I think Renfroe, you talk about the inconsistency. I could see him feasting in that Milwaukee ballpark. The defense should play up a little bit more in that park as well. And he's just a much needed bat for them. And you gave up, I mean, like we said, it's 2 solid prospects, but for the Brewers who are looking to compete next year again, they're totally fine with that. And their system's already weak as is. I love the move from a Brewer standpoint. I don't hate it from a Red Sox standpoint. The more we talk about it, it's just the money. If it really comes down to money, like if the Red Sox say we're not going over the luxury tax, then I hate the move. But I doubt that that's going to happen because of the fact that they made this move. I do have my concerns that Bradley might not even be like remotely competitive to even the degree of last year. I mean, he was a sub 100 hitter against pitches 95 miles an hour and over, which you see a lot of in today's game. The Red Sox already have a guy like that in Bobby Dahlbeck who can't hit velo. They just have multiple guys who can't hit velo in a game where it's all velo. A little bit concerning. I love the defensive side of it. Like Colby said, though, if they're not done, which I think the assumption is that they're not done, it could make a lot of sense. It's just a lot of money for a 4th outfielder and late game replacement that is a bit hard to justify for me. But I'm sure there's a larger plan in place here.
So let's speculate this larger plan. We think they're going to get a right fielder. I came out yesterday, and this was just like a weird hunch, just considering how weird this move is. I was like, I feel like the Red Sox are going to get even weirder and sign Seiya Suzuki in right field. But that's not a weird move, because Seiya Suzuki could end up being a better player than maybe a Michael Conforto would. Castellanos may be a different story because Castellanos is kind of a unreal hitter, but not the best defender. I wonder what the Red Sox want to do. Colby, speculate for me.
Yeah, I think Seiya Suzuki is an interesting and intriguing option for the Red Sox. I don't think that's a Heim Bloom guy, though. I think it's a guy that he's going to shy away from. That I don't think the Red Sox want to buy a guy that hasn't seen MLB pitching, that we haven't seen him, be proven here yet. So I don't think that's like the most risk averse move, and I think that's what Heim often kind of goes for. I think the most risk averse move is Michael Conforto. If you look at Michael Conforto from 2017 to 2020, he produced 13.3 WAR. That's 27th in baseball over that span. And yeah, he had a down year in 2021, only a 322 WOBA, but he had a 352 xWOBA, which really to me makes me think that like balls weren't dropping his way. And I don't think really anything changed for Conforto at the plate last year. I think it's just like, a few doubles in the gap get caught by Jackie Bradley Jr. maybe. Like it's things like that can like sway a whole season. So I would absolutely love, I don't know what Conforto's looking for right now because of that down year. If he wants to come to the Red Sox on a 1 year, $25 million deal, prove it deal, and then go get that bag in his age 29 season after this season, that would be awesome. And if we want to sign him to a 3 to 4 year deal, 5-year deal, let's go do it. I love Michael Conforto, and I think he is the definition of consistently like really, really good. This guy's been good for a long time, and one bad year is not going to change that for me.
I agree. I just think the Mets had a really bad year offensively just as a team. I mean, you just go around the diamond.
It was contagious. It was contagious.
Absolutely. Yeah. Francisco Lindor. You think about, I don't even think Brandon
McNeil
had I was going to mention McNeil, but I was like, even a guy like Brandon Nimmo, I don't think had the same exact season. Guys were just getting hurt. They couldn't build momentum. Javier Baez comes and he's kind of the only hitter that kind of broke out a little bit. And doesn't that kind of say something about this Mets team, considering he came over from the Cubs and just kind of did the opposite while the other players in the Mets lineup struggled. So I agree. I really like Michael Conforto going into the season, but I kind of have him going to the White Sox, but I wouldn't be surprised if he went to the Red Sox either.
Well, what I like about this too is there was a really good piece that Ryan Finkelstein put out over on justbaseball.com about a week or so back about, Michael Conforto is a client of Scott Boras, and Boras, what he did with Castellanos and what he's done a couple of times in the past is go bandbox shopping, which is, you have a player off a down year, you put him in a really hitter friendly environment in a deal that maybe it's a 1 year show me deal. Maybe it's like Castellanos' deal. It was 5 years, but had an opt out after a couple seasons. That might be what Conforto is looking for. And if you look at Baseball Savant's park factor, Fenway Park is the second most hitter friendly environment. Now, I don't know if it's that hitter friendly. You can kind of toss it up, but regardless, it is one of the more hitter friendly environments in baseball. And Conforto will want to play there, I think, as a bounce back opportunity, especially because I bet Conforto's saying the same thing Colby said. Man, I could have been better this year, but I had some bad luck. And I'm sure he would love to go to a place where a lot of those balls that didn't fall will end up falling or end up leaving the yard. And that's why I think Red Sox makes a ton of sense. White Sox, I could totally see too. But it would make sense to me there. He seems like the perfect candidate to head over to Boston. And remember too, he's going to be in a much better lineup top to bottom. He can hit in the 7 hole or the 6 hole or wherever he prefers. He has protection. He's going to have a lot of opportunities with runners on base. It seems like it's just going to be a much better change of scenery, better situation. And Conforto would be one of our breakout candidates, I think, if he ends up in Boston.
And also think about it. Michael Conforto hits right-handed pitching better than left-handed pitching. Who are the two best left-handed pitchers in the AL East? It's not Robbie Ray anymore. He's gone. And Chris Sale's on the Red Sox. So there's a lot of right-handed pitching that he can probably mash up. I mean, Hyunjin Ryu, like that's another one of these lefties that he's probably going to not have that too much trouble against. I like the move to the Red Sox. I think that actually would work.
Peter, can I give a hot take real quick?
Obviously, every time I want it.
I would love to have Michael Conforto on the Red Sox more than I would love to have Kyle Schwarber on the Red Sox.
That's not a hot take at all. I think that's a good take. I would too. Yeah.
We have Tristan Casas right there, just sitting in the minor leagues, ready to come up. And, obviously you can't expect him to be insane when he comes up, but he's right there. He's right there. And you can trade for a first baseman maybe, or just sign somebody cheap to like hold down that spot while Casas comes up. I think that's the move. Get somebody that actually can play outfield defense, at least league average. Like Conforto's probably a little bit above league average in right field. Just go get Conforto.
I'm with it.
I don't hate it.